Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I am so excited because I am talking to an actor that I've just admired and been a huge fan of for a long time, Richard E. Grant. We're talking about The Lesson. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Absolutely. Again, big fan. With Nail and I is one of my favorite movies. And I might catch a little flack for this, but I like Hudson Hawk. I'm just gonna say
Okay.
it. Um, but jumping into this, what kind of drew you to the lesson? What kind of appealed to you about this project, and indeed your character that you
I
play?
think because it's a hermetically sealed family unit of a very successful writer who is very controlling of his family, but their teenage son has committed suicide, so they're all of them in a state of grief. And into this hermetically sealed world that they live in comes an outsider in the form of a young tutor played by Daryl McCormack. So you know that it's the cuckoo in the nest, that the stuff's going to hit the fan sooner or later. And so, that makes instantly for something that's interesting, that what is going on the surface and what is going underneath is the contradiction. And so it was very active too. Also, the fact that it was director Alice Stratton, who'd never done a movie before. Alex McKeith's screenplay is the first time a movie of his had been made. Daryl is a new up-and-comer. I think he made only a couple of movies. Stephen McMillan, who plays my eldest son, same thing. Julie Delpy and I have obviously been around for 100 years. But so all of that made for something that you knew that people were going to be very hungry to put all their passion into something. So it didn't feel like it was, kind of another job, a run-of-the-mill thing. So that made it very attractive.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic movie. Y'all are so great in it. Being an author yourself, do you feel like that kind of helped you and inform the character a little bit more?
Yes, except that this character is so egocentric and self-confident and contemptuous of everybody and everything that, and then of course, catastrophically suffers writer's block, which unravels what happens in the story in the third act. But certainly the isolation of being a writer is something that I have had first-hand experience of. And my wife had died 6 months before making this movie, so last summer. So the isolation that grief puts you into is something that was directly paralleled with making this movie. So that wasn't something that was planned. It just is of how it evolved. And so real life bled into screen life, as it were.
Hmm. Now, speaking of, I don't think this is giving anything away, but you have this amazing water fight scene with Daryl McCormack. Can you talk about filming that scene? Y'all are so good in it because there's a tenseness, but there's like a dark comedy kind of intermixed.
Yeah, it's the climax of the film where the tables are turned on the person that is supposedly my character in control of everything, and then everything is upended, and it's it's the classic thing of old guy versus young guy and who is going to win, and inevitably there's no surprise of who does win because that's just the laws of nature. So I got on very, very well with Daryl, which made it enormously helpful, because I think that if we'd been at loggerheads, it would have been difficult to do that. And we had a great stunt fight coordinator who showed us, and we rehearsed everything of what we had to do. And because it was shot in the summer as well in Hamburg, standing in for Oxfordshire in England, the lake that we have this climactic fight in originally was going to be shot in the fall, and so there was great worry that we'd have to be in wetsuits and
Mm.
it'd be so cold. But as it turned out, it was so hot, it was a relief to be plunged into the water.
Yeah, you're kind of like, is it the water scene yet? You can kind of.
Yeah, we do that today.
But no, it's really fantastic. You obviously have some really amazing co-stars that you mentioned, Julie Delpy, Daryl McCormack. What was that like, having these amazing actors to kind of play off of?
What was interesting is that when you go on location normally, and with a chamber-sized cast that we were of 4 actors, usually that's very bonding, and you spend all your time together out of either side of shooting hours. On this thing, I think because the characters are so isolated within the story from each other, apart from a cast producer directed dinner that we had at the beginning of the shoot, we never socialized thereafter. And that wasn't planned. It's just the way that it happened. And so curiously, real life exactly mirrored what was going on in the scenes of the thing. We're all staying in the same apartment hotel in Hamburg, but I never had a single social thing with any of the other actors, and they didn't either with each other. To my knowledge, they may have been having parties together and not told me, but and whether that was that you instinctively are protecting yourself from becoming too familiar with people because they're so isolated in the story, I don't know, but it was all that happened. I've never experienced that before in a movie.
Yeah, that is really interesting, and you would say that definitely kind of helped. Like as you say, if you got too chummy with them, it might be harder to kind of really get into how cutting you can be, to say.
Yeah, but I'm not a method actor. None of the other actors were, but it's just something it's just the way that it worked out.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. Actually, I was going to ask you what you thought of method acting, because I know that's very controversial. Some people don't particularly like it. What are your thoughts on method acting?
I've only worked with Daniel Day-Lewis on Scorsese's Age of Innocence in 1991. That's the only time I've worked with an actor, the most celebrated actor of the method, going. And I found it very unnerving because Daniel was so friendly at the beginning of the movie. On the first day of shooting, the generator broke down, and then subsequently for the next 3 or 4 months we were doing this, because his character in Edith Wharton's book loathed the character that I was playing, he literally blanked me or avoided me, and that was very unsettling. And but I can't argue with it because he's a consummate actor, and but that's the only time that I've encountered the full method before. Every other actor is just gossiping in between and saying this or yada yada yada. Oh, what is Mike Vaughn like, and is that beard real? How long is it? All the stuff that people just do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my own experience of it.
Now, I'm speaking of your own process. When you delve into the script, do you kind of formulate a little bit of a backstory for your character, or do you feel like that's okay?
Yeah, you do, and in the learning of the lines way in advance, I find that gives you everything about what is going on. Because if you are as prepared as you possibly can be, when you then arrive on the set and the director or another actor gives you something that is totally left of field or unexpected, you can recalibrate or adjust or respond to that without any worry that your lines are not, absolutely secure. Because I found that my experience of actors who try and wing it and don't really know what they're saying, they then eat up the oxygen of the shooting day or rehearsal time because they just haven't put the work in advance. And it's very often excused by, oh yeah, I'm just, I like to keep it fresh. Well, they don't keep it fresh. They just keep everybody waiting because, they haven't got the lines right. So it can be frustrating.
Yeah, I always find it so interesting talking to different actors about kind of how they get into character, their process. And again, I love your character because it's so again, cutting, it's so like it's this dry sardonic kind of, I was gonna say not wit, but like you just have a way of like cutting people's characters down, like other characters down, just in a way that is so eloquent, but like also just like completely eviscerates them. I love it.
Yeah, something that I can't do in real life, but you get given a character, you can do it, and somebody else has written the lines for you. It's that's the kick of doing it.
Well, I was gonna say that must be so liberating and fun when,
Yeah,
it's not you saying it, it's like,
exactly.
a character you can really just let go.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. Now, if you were to get to reprise any role, a previous role, what would it be?
What happened to Darwin Mayflower as you
Hmm.
brought up that Hudson Hawk movie? No, well, he got, exfoliated in molten gold, so we know what happened to him. Um, I had such a great time working with Sandra Bernhardt in that. We used to fantasize about the entire sort of string of movies we could make just with these two people in various places,
Yeah.
running a despotic, regime somewhere in South America or anywhere. But, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. I did, to be not to be to try and answer your question seriously, that every part you hope that you're not going to be asked to do a facsimile of what you've done before. So anything that's new or somebody gives you something that you hopefully haven't done before is equal parts terror and excitement. So you travel in hope of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and it's just, again, you've worked with so many iconic directors, like The Player with Robert Altman, like just the list is like a mile long of the amazing stuff that you've been in. I mean, heck, Star Wars, that must have been such an amazing experience.
Absolutely extraordinary, off the chart, because I had seen the first one when I was a drama theatre student in 1977 when I was 20. So if you told me that 4 decades later I would be in the final installment of that, the 9 original Star Wars, I would have said, you're dreaming. It's dreaming impossible dream. And so when I got the call from J.J. Abrams and was given this part, I couldn't really believe it. And I didn't tell him that I would gladly have paid him to be in it. You're not supposed to do that, but I genuinely would have done.
Oh, that's amazing. And now I mentioned that you have a book coming out, right? In August, your memoirs.
Yeah.
Um,
Memoir that was it came about because I posted something on social media on New Year's Day a year ago, in which I said that after the death of my wife, I felt like a turtle that had lost its shell and my compass had been broken. So I then had publishers asked, because it got such an extraordinary response in cyber, that they said, would you write a memoir? And I was very reluctant. And my daughter said, I think that if you combine all the history of your courtship and how your careers have interweaved, because my wife was a celebrated dialect coach, accents for actors, and then go through the whole Oscar circuit race for Can You Ever Forgive Me and all of that. If you write that in combination with the last 8 months of my wife's life, it would be a way of, honoring her and also our life together. So it's done incredibly well. It's been a #1 bestseller Sunday Times book here when it came out. And so it'll come out, I think, at the beginning of August in the USA.
yeah, I'm gonna pre-order it later today. I'm really excited. Now, kind of wrapping up. Besides the lesson, which that comes out July 7th, which
Yeah.
again, amazing movie. You all should have that on your calendar. But is there any other projects that you can talk about that you have?
Yes, I'm in Saltburn, which is the second movie written and directed by Emerald Fennell, who got her Oscar for writing Promising Young Woman with Carey Mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, who's just done Elvis for Sofia Coppola's Priscilla movie, and Rosamund Pike and I play husband and wife. And there are scenes in that I have never seen in a movie before. which you can't, I don't know how many times you can say that in your career, but Emerald Fennell is extraordinary, and it is unlike anything that I've been in ever. So that comes out in the fall, and it's called Saltburn.
Amazing. Well, that's great. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate your
Mike.
time. Again, big fan. The movie is The Lesson, July 7th. It's amazing. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vaughn.
Yep, thank you.